Preparing yourself for the actual process of giving birth is really, really important, and it can be very effective for promoting a positive birth experience. Hi lovelies and welcome, it's Funto here. So of course, labour is a very intense experience on your body. So to prepare myself and help my body, I've been doing lots of stretching. So this is something I started doing actually in my second trimester, much earlier, just to get it in my bones, my body, and because it calms me and I really enjoy stretching in general. Rather than sitting on the sofa in the evenings, what I tend to do is take a seat on the floor, and I'll take that as an opportunity to stretch out my legs using deep squats, lunges, and a variety of stretches that are really going to open up my pelvic floor, my hips, and really improve my mobility for labour. I have been walking. So since the start of my third trimester, I have ramped up my walking and trying to get a lot more mobility in my body. I found this a very effective way to kind of alleviate aches and pains in my pelvic area during my first pregnancy, and I found that when I go for walks during this pregnancy, I definitely initially feel a little bit rusty, but then the mobility and the movement does me a lot of good. Also, it's just good to keep up my fitness, and I feel like walking is one of the simplest ways to do that because it is very low intensity but very effective. As I get later in my pregnancy, and if I get to the point where I need to start inducing labour, walking is one of the ways that's really good for inducing labour as well. I've also been making a very conscious effort to make sure that I'm sitting forward. I'm not one to like slouching or leaning back that much, particularly in pregnancy anyway, but in particular in my third trimester, as baby is going to gradually start taking up more space and settling into their final position for labour, I want to encourage them to be head down. So I've been trying to make sure that I'm sitting forward and making sure that my pelvis is either parallel to the floor or tipped forward, meaning that my back is straight or I'm leaning forward slightly. This is really good to try and encourage baby to fall into a cephalic position, which basically means that they're head down with their back leaning against the outer part of your tummy where your belly button is. This is a really good position for labour, and they start to settle into their position around 36 weeks, but they can keep turning anywhere between that time and even during labour as well. But I'm trying to give myself a head start to avoid being in a position where baby is breech or in a harder position to navigate during labour. I've started to work on my breathing. So there are two breathing techniques that I've been practicing. The first one is 360 breathing, or also called belly breathing. And it's basically a way to try and strengthen my abdominal muscles, which might sound ridiculous when I'm heavily pregnant, but it's basically really good for engaging your deep core muscles, and it's something that's very helpful in postpartum recovery as well. If you haven't heard of it, give it a Google. There's lots of information online and on YouTube about how to work on this breathing technique. This is one of the habits I want to get into now because it's very good for engaging not just my abdomen, but also my entire pelvic floor, which needs all the strength and support right now. It's also a habit that I want to take forward into postpartum during that stage when I will be trying to rehabilitate and really take care of my pelvic floor. The second type of breathing I've been working on is more to do with labour specifically. So one of the things that I found very beneficial from the antenatal classes that I took and the birth prep that I was doing last year was breathing techniques. And this is something that I learned, and I also taught my husband. So during labour, we were able to breathe together. So I'm just trying to brush up my memory on it. The recommended breathing pattern that I learned was to breathe in for 4 counts through my nose and to exhale slowly through my mouth for 6 counts. I found this really fundamental during labour. It was a great way to calm me down, and it was good to have something to focus on and to keep myself centered during the process. I have started perineal massages. So if you don't know about them, trust me, you want to get on board. Now, this is one of those things that isn't necessarily medically recorded or proved to be effective, but many women do say that they found it helpful to prepare their body for labour. and I'm not prepared to try going through labour without preparing myself in this way. It's basically a massage that stretches and prepares your perineum to allow a baby to pass through. I've been doing these stretches using vitamin E oil, and there are lots of diagrams and videos online that explain the technique. The one that I like and I find simplest is thinking of a peace sign, so moving your fingers down and at 45-degree angles and also in a U shape around the lower perineum. And I found this to be very effective the first time around. Second time around, I can also see how the initial tightness that I had when I was starting them is gradually loosening up, and I think my body's getting used to the stretching a bit more. This is something that you can do alone, but it's also sometimes a bit more comfortable, and perhaps you get a deeper stretch if you can do it with a partner. So if you do have someone that can help you, do ask them to help. If not, crack on and do it yourself. I have started to drink cups of red raspberry leaf tea daily. So this tea I find to be very lovely. It tastes very much like peppermint tea. So it's a mix of peppermint leaves and red raspberry leaf tea leaves. And it's just really nice and calming. Red raspberry leaf tea is one of the things that I first came across in this birth prep book, and it's spoken a lot by many doulas and midwives to be beneficial for the labour process. Again, it's one of those things that maybe doesn't have scientific records on its benefits, but the benefits are recorded and spoken about a lot. It's very good for conditioning the uterus and helping with that process of dilating. So it's one that I'm starting now, and gradually as I get closer to my due date, I'll increase the number of cups of teas that I'm drinking. Do read the packaging first and speak to your midwife before you start drinking it to make sure that it's safe and healthy for you. I've also started to eat 2 dates every day. Dates are incredibly nutritious. They have a whole host of benefits for your body, whether you're pregnant or not, but they're also affiliated with certain benefits for pregnancy and labour. They're packed with folate, vitamin K and iron, which is fantastic for your body as well as baby. And they're also said to help soften the cervix, similar to the red raspberry leaf tea, which is a good thing during the early stages of labour. I have been catching up on sleep. So this is a double one where I'm partly getting a little bit more tired now that I'm in my 3rd trimester. I do feel a bit heavier and I feel like I can't pack as much into a day as I ordinarily would do. But at the same time, it's also preparing me for those long newborn nights where sleep is either a myth altogether or it comes in very short bursts. I think it's just a good time while my toddler is sleeping through the night to really take advantage of that time to get lots of sleep and to rest my body because it's still working very hard. So those are the key things that I'm doing to prepare myself for labour. Let me know in the comments if you have any other tips and advice for how to prepare for labour as well. If you want to stay up to date with the rest of my journey, then do consider subscribing, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!